The island murder mystery, the billionaire's wife. The Atlantic Ocean does not sleep. It breathes, slow, deep, and ancient, like something that has watched empires rise and fall and will watch many more before it rests. And on its edge, far from the noise of the world, sits a private island that most people will never know exists. Azura Isle. A name that does not appear on public maps. A place that does not answer to governments, journalists, or curious strangers. It belongs to one family, and one family only, the Langford dynasty. White marble mansion rising from the cliffs like a monument, crystal water on every side, helicopter pads on the north end, security cameras that never blink, walls that hold secrets the way oceans hold shipwrecks, quietly, completely, and forever. Tonight, the island is alive with light. Inside the glass-walled mansion, soft music plays from speakers hidden in the walls. Champagne arrives in crystal flutes. Laughter moves through the rooms like smoke, light and effortless. 12 guests, hand-selected, each one holding more power in their little finger than most people see in a lifetime. No phones allowed, no cameras, no recording devices of any kind. What happens on Azura Isle stays on Azura Isle. That is the unspoken rule. That has always been the rule. At the center of it all stands Victor Langford, 52 years old, silver at his temples, eyes the color of deep water, calm on the surface, unreadable underneath. He built his empire not with luck, but with precision. Every deal calculated, every relationship strategic. He shakes hands like he is signing contracts. He smiles like he is granting favors. The people in this room tonight are his world, his partners, his allies, his carefully curated circle of influence. Standing beside him is his wife, Elena Langford, beautiful in a way that is quiet and deliberate. Not the kind that announces itself, but the kind that stays with you long after you have looked away. 41 years old, dark hair pinned back, a red dress that cost more than most people's cars. She holds her champagne glass with both hands, which is not her habit. And she is not smiling. Not really. Her eyes keep drifting, past the guests, past the music, past the chandelier throwing gold light across the marble floor, out toward the ocean. Like she is waiting for something, or afraid of something, or both. Victor notices. He leans toward her, says something in her ear. She nods, smiles, the kind of smile you wear for photographs. He moves away to greet someone else, and the moment he turns his back, her smile disappears. The party continues. The laughter continues. But something in the air is different tonight. The maid, a young woman named Rosa, who has worked on the island for 3 years and learned to see things without appearing to look, notices Elena leave the main hall, quietly, without telling anyone. Rosa follows at a distance because that is what Elena has trained her to do. Stay close, stay quiet, be ready. Elena moves through the corridor toward the west wing. She pauses at a window and looks out toward the cliffs. The lights outside are low, but enough to see the path down to the water. And on that path, standing completely still near the edge, is a man in a black suit. Elena stares for a long moment. Then she turns to Rosa and says, barely above a whisper, "Tell security to check the west wing, right now." Rosa nods and goes. She pulls out the internal communicator and radios the security head, Daniel Ross, a former military man with a jaw like stone and eyes that trust nothing. She tells him what Elena said. Ross clicks his tongue, says he will send 2 men, and goes back to monitoring the camera feed. But here's the thing about that camera feed. It was already compromised. Neither Rosa nor Ross knew it yet. But 7 minutes of footage, from 10:42 to 10:49, had been looped. The same 7 minutes, playing on repeat. Whoever was watching the screens would see nothing unusual. The party, the corridor, The West Wing hallway. Empty, normal, peaceful. Inside the main hall, a flicker. The lights dim for 3 full seconds, then snap back on. One of the guests laughs nervously and says something about the island grid. Victor waves it off. "This island has survived Category 4 storms," he says. "A power flicker is nothing." But on the internal screens, an alert has appeared in quiet red text. "Storm incoming. Sea levels unstable. Recommend securing outer perimeters." Victor sees it, dismisses it with a hand gesture like he is brushing away a fly. Elena has come back to the hall. She sees the alert, reads it once, looks at Victor, and says, quietly, calmly, in a tone that is somehow more alarming than a shout, "This storm is not natural." Victor turns to her. "What does that mean?" She opens her mouth, and then, from somewhere deep in the West Wing, a scream splits the air. Everything after that moves like a nightmare. Security running, heels on marble, doors banging open, guests frozen in place with champagne glasses raised halfway to lips that will not close. Victor barking orders, someone crying, someone else demanding answers. The music stopping, not gradually, but all at once, cut in the middle of a note, leaving a silence so complete it feels like pressure. The private glass room at the end of the West Wing overlooks the ocean directly. 3 walls of floor-to-ceiling glass, 1 solid wall behind, a single door, which was locked from the inside. Security breaks it open, and there she is, Elena Langford, on the floor, completely still. Her red dress pooled around her like something spilled. One arm stretched out, fingers slightly open. Near her hand, a wine glass, shattered. But the pieces are scattered inward, not outward. That detail will matter later. On her neck, a faint red mark. Not deep, not a bruise yet, but there. No one else in the room, no open windows, no signs of a struggle beyond the broken glass. Just a locked room, a dead woman, and 12 people outside the door who are each suddenly, quietly calculating how this looks for them. Victor walks in, looks at her for a long moment. His face does not break, not immediately. Then something moves behind his eyes, and he says one sentence.
"This building is
Lock down the island, right now."
What is happening?
Ross executes it without question. No boats, no helicopters. All guests confined to the main hall under armed watch. The island, this paradise of money and marble, transforms in minutes into something else entirely. A prison. Beautiful and inescapable. Somewhere inside it, a killer is standing among the guests, probably holding a drink, probably looking appropriately shocked, possibly looking at Victor right now with concerned, sympathetic eyes. The storm outside begins to grow. At 3:40 in the morning, through sheets of rain and ocean wind, a helicopter lands on the north pad. The pilot had been called by Victor personally, not island security, not local police, not the Coast Guard. Victor Langford, when something goes wrong, does not call institutions. He calls people he controls. One person steps out, Detective Adrian Cole. He is not tall, but he moves like someone who owns whatever room he enters. Former FBI, 12 years, Violent Crimes Division. He left under circumstances that were never fully explained publicly, which is exactly why people like Victor trust him. He does not file reports with agencies. He does not hold press conferences. He finds the truth and he delivers it to the person who hired him. What that person does with it is not his problem. He walks across the wet pad and looks up at the mansion, rain hitting his face. He does not rush to cover. Victor meets him at the entrance and says, "Find who did this, whatever it costs."
Why won't he move?
Adrian looks at him, really looks, and says, "On an island, there is no escape, Not for the killer, not for anyone. He enters the crime scene alone. No technician with him yet. Just him and the room and what it has to say. He stands in the doorway for almost 2 full minutes without moving, just looking, the way a musician listens to a piece before playing, not for information, but for feeling, for what is wrong. Then he moves. He crouches beside the shattered wine glass, looks at the scatter pattern, inward. Someone smashed this glass against the wall or against something else, then placed the pieces, or the glass was thrown and hit with force from a direction that does not match a simple drop. Either way, it did not fall naturally. Door handle. He pulls a small light from his jacket and examines it. Clean. Too clean. Not smudged, not even with dust. Someone wiped it. In a mansion full of staff and polished surfaces, a door handle being clean is not unusual. Except this one is in a private room that was accessed tonight, and the handle is clean in a specific way. The kind of clean that is deliberate. He stands, looks at the camera housing in the upper corner of the hallway outside, notes the time gap he will verify later. 7 minutes looped. And then he stops, stands completely still, breathes in. There is a perfume in this room. Light, but present. Expensive. He knows it because his ex-wife wore the same one for 3 years, and he still recognizes it in crowded places. It is not Elena's perfume. He checked the vanity notes from the maid. Elena wore jasmine, light, understated. This is darker. Oriental base, heavier. Someone else was in this room. A woman. Or someone wearing a woman's perfume. He walks back to the main hall where the guests are gathered. 12 people. Scared or performing scared. Sometimes those look identical, and that is the point. He looks at all of them in one slow sweep, says nothing. Then he turns to Victor and says quietly, "I need to speak with everyone individually, starting with you." Victor nods. They sit in the study. The storm is pressing against the windows now. The glass vibrates faintly. Adrian opens simply. "Was your marriage happy?" Victor is quiet for a moment, the kind of quiet that is not about finding words, but about deciding how many to give. "On paper," he says. "Happy on paper." Adrian writes nothing, just watches. What does that mean? It means we had an agreement. We were partners, professionally, socially, publicly. The personal side was complicated. Was Elena planning to leave you? Victor looks up sharply, then back down. Where did you hear that? Was she? A longer silence this time, then... She had asked me 2 weeks ago about a separation. I told her we would discuss it after this weekend. And the company files she had access to? What level of access? Victor's jaw tightens. Executive level. She was on the board. So she had access to acquisition data, investor records, pending deals. Yes. And if she left, or if there was a legal separation, what happens to that access? Victor says nothing, but his silence is an answer. Adrian leaves him and moves to the next person. Mark Ellison, business partner. 58 years old. Dressed like old money, even though everyone in this room knows he came from nothing and worked his way to Victor's side through 20 years of loyalty. Or what looked like loyalty. He sits with his legs crossed and his hands folded, and his face arranged in an expression of practiced concern. Adrian asks him about his relationship with Elena. Mark says they were professional acquaintances, nothing more. Adrian notes that he does not say friends. He says professional acquaintances, specifically, like a man who has already rehearsed the vocabulary. He asks Mark where he was between 10:42 and 10:49, the 7-minute window when the camera was looped. Mark says he was in the main hall the entire time, Multiple people can confirm, he says. Adrian nods, writes nothing. He visits Claire Morgan next, Elena's personal assistant, 29 years old. She has been crying, genuinely, Adrian thinks. Her mascara has run in a specific way that is hard to fake, and her hands will not stay still. She keeps pressing them flat on her thighs like she is trying to stop them. He asks her about Elena's state of mind in recent weeks. Claire tells him Elena had been stressed, receiving calls she would not explain, going through documents late at night. 2 nights ago, Elena had told Claire to book a private transfer off the island for the following morning, just for Elena. No Victor, no staff, just her.
Yes, write it down quickly.
Did she say where she was going? Adrian asks. Claire shakes her head. She just said she needed to get off the island before it was too late. Before it was too late. Adrian sits with that phrase for a moment. He asks about the unknown guest, the man in the black suit near the cliffs. Claire's expression changes when he mentions it. Her hands press harder against her thighs. She knows something. He waits. Finally, she says, "His name is Thomas Vane. He was Elena's attorney. She had contacted him 3 days ago about filing documents, legal documents. I arranged the transport to get him here secretly because Elena said if Victor found out, everything would be ruined." What kind of legal documents? Claire hesitates. Then, she was going to expose the company. There are financial records, offshore accounts, hidden transactions, investor fraud that goes back 7 years. Elena had the documents. Thomas was here to receive copies and begin the legal process. Adrian is quiet for a long time. Then he stands up and says, "Where is Thomas Vane right now?" Claire says she does not know. She saw him near the cliffs around 10:30. After that, nothing. Adrian goes to Ross, the security head, and asks him to locate Thomas Vane among the guests. Ross checks the manifest, checks the cameras, checks the rooms. Thomas Vane is not in the main hall. He is not in any room. He is not on any camera since 10:41, 1 minute before the loop began. The next 2 hours are the island's darkest. Adrian moves through the mansion like he is reading a book that was written specifically to mislead him. He finds the tunnel. It is behind the wine cellar, a passage built into the cliff, probably a decade old. Probably Victor's doing, because men like Victor always build exits that no one else knows about. The tunnel runs 200 meters and opens onto a small dock below the cliff line, hidden from the main island view. The dock is there. A rope tied to a cleat, recently cut. A boat, gone. Someone used this tunnel tonight, during those 7 looped minutes. Adrian stands at the cliff dock in the rain and looks out at the black water. The storm is full now, wind and water and sound. He thinks, the perfume, the tunnel, the boat, the looped camera, the wine glass scattered inward. Elena planning to expose the company. Thomas Vane, the attorney, vanished. He goes back inside. He calls everyone into the main hall, all 12 guests. Victor standing at the front, arms folded, face unreadable. Ross by the door, hand near his belt. Claire in the back, eyes red. Mark Ellison, still seated, legs still crossed, hands still folded, expression still arranged. Adrian stands in the center. He says, Elena Langford was not killed by a stranger. She was not killed by someone who broke in. She was killed by someone in this room who knew exactly what she was doing, exactly what documents she had, and exactly how much time they had before Thomas Vane received those documents and the window closed forever. Silence. The camera loop required access to the security system. That access belongs to 3 people on this island: Victor Langford, Daniel Ross, and one other person who was given temporary system access 6 months ago when the security infrastructure was upgraded. He pauses. Mark Ellison. Mark does not move, does not blink. His hands stay folded. His expression does not change, which is itself the tell. Because every other person in that room reacted, looked up, looked at Mark, shifted, breathed differently. Mark did not move at all, because he already knew what was coming. Adrian continues. The perfume in the glass room is a brand called Nuit Enchantresse. It is worn by exactly one person on this island. He looks directly at Mark. Your wife, who is not listed as a guest tonight because she was not supposed to be here. She arrived through the tunnel at 10:30. She met Elena in the glass room. And you, in the main hall, clearly visible, with multiple witnesses. You were the alibi, while someone else did what needed to be done. Mark finally speaks. His voice is level. This is speculation. The boat is gone, Adrian says. Your wife is gone. And the rope on that dock was cut with a blade that matches the one missing from the kitchen set that Rosa reported at 11 tonight. He turns to Ross. There is also the matter of a phone call made from the island's internal line at 10:48 during the loop to a cell number registered to a shell company that Mark Ellison's legal team incorporated in 2021. I had that verified 20 minutes ago. The room is completely still. Mark Ellison uncrosses his legs, leans forward, puts his hands on his knees, and looks at Adrian with eyes that are finally not performing anything. She was going to destroy everything, he says. 20 years. Everything Victor and I built. She had no right. Victor across the room says nothing. His face is stone. She had every right, Adrian says. That was actually the problem. Ross moves. 2 security staff move with him. Mark does not resist. He simply sits there as they approach, as though he has already accepted what comes next, as though he decided somewhere between the tunnel and this room that the performance was over. Outside, the storm begins to pull back, slowly, the way storms do. Not all at once, but in sections, the wind dropping first, then the rain thinning, then a strip of dark sky opening up in the east that is less black than the rest. Victor Langford stands alone on the glass balcony overlooking the ocean, the place where Elena used to stand and look out at the water. He holds a glass of something he is not drunk. The investigation is not over. There will be authorities, there will be proceedings, there will be things that cannot be kept quiet no matter how much money he has. And there's the matter of the documents. Thomas Vane is out there somewhere on the water with copies of records that will change everything. He knows this. Adrian finds him there, stands beside him, does not speak immediately. Then Victor says without turning, "She was right, you know, about everything." Adrian says nothing. I kept telling myself it was business, that it was just how things are done at this level, but she saw it clearly, and I could not allow her to say it out loud. He pauses. I did not kill her, but I built the circumstances that got her killed. What is the difference? Adrian thinks about this for a moment, then he says, "That is a question for a different kind of professional than me." He sets down his glass and walks back inside. The helicopter will come back in 2 hours. The Coast Guard has been notified. The island, this beautiful, terrible cage of marble and money and secrets, will never be what it was after this night. Some places carry what happened in them forever. The walls remember, the water remembers. And somewhere out on that dark Atlantic, a boat is moving through the last of the storm, carrying a lawyer and a set of documents, and the final testimony of a woman who saw the truth clearly and paid for it with everything. Elena Langford did not escape the island, but her words will.